Before we get started, I got a bit of a channel update to share. I learned from my previous video in this series touring Ion that going through builds in such a large location, only to have nothing much to say about what I'm showing, isn't engaging for either of us, and it makes videos longer than I'd like. So moving forward, if you want the boots on the ground experience like in my previous tours, you can go ahead and grab a world download to explore the areas I'm not willing to show. Now then, on to the video. Hello there everyone, it's Anarl, your key to the past of Simplex. I'm going to be showing Oaktown, the #1 largest town on the server. As you can see, organization and order is non-existent here. Players claim their own builds, but not always. Pathways have little structure. Build styles of neighbors clashed. And the border of what was and what wasn't part of Oaktown is questionable to this day, but nothing matches the number of players that built and lived in this urban sprawl. Oaktown was founded early in the month of May 2017 by Brookie YT, or Brookie for short, and 2 of his friends. They accepted the request from an outsider to build with them. As more players were invited to build nearby, this dissolved Brookie's initial plan to only have a handful of players living near each other for a small village setup. Now the idea was extending its reach to other nearby players' houses and towns with roads or rail lines. Brookie liked the idea of growing beyond a meager village so much that they would start the explosive growth of the town using a word-of-mouth approach to get new residents, specifically targeting new and low-ranking players. This straightforward approach has made Oaktown the largest town on the server, even bigger than the more orderly plot-based town of Ion. I can back up the success of the word-of-mouth tactic with a combination of everyone's join dates from Oaktown that I could find, and my personal chat logs. From my perspective, things would really pick up in mid to late May, showing that getting the word out and being active was working well. Also contributing to its growth was the absence of active towns at the time. Any towns from 2016 didn't make it to the end of the year, so there was no competition for Brookie to encounter. My first evidence of Brookie advertising Oaktown would be on the 28th of May, and I would visit for the first time the next day. I was conflicted by this fact since by this date, Brookie had only played 3 total hours since they joined the server last month on the 28th of April, and I had been playing Simplex almost every day in the evenings. I didn't see them advertise Oaktown, so why on my first visit were there multiple players already living there? How it makes sense to me is time zones. I learned later down the line that they were from Pakistan. That would put them 9 hours ahead of my time here on the East Coast of the United States. 6 p.m. for me would be 3 a.m. for them. Even if I'm wrong, the fact is, Oaktown was already growing by the time I did my first visit, and fast. T44HA, or as I'm going to call them, Taha, would join Brookie as a co-mayor a little bit before I would take my first visit to Oaktown. I had saw Brookie advertise in chat about Oaktown the day prior, and decided to take a look around. I felt repulsed at how chaotic everything was. I could feel my inner control freak crying. Brookie asked if I wanted to build in the town to live in or to have a second house, but I declined. I didn't like what I saw, plus I already had a base. It's largely why I ignored what was going on in Oaktown. Some of its builds were interesting, though. On the 17th of May 2017, Oaktown would join the Community of Villages, or COV, run by Choo-Choo-2112, who is known by Chew Imperium now. Brookie would allow the construction of a train station that would link up to a network of some other towns in the COV, and other locations. Flying Mushroom Town by Deciphers, Pixel Town by Bounce Longlegs, the 2020 Egg Hunt Island, the Crystal District, which would later be renamed to the Game District, and in particular, Pakistan Village. Pakistan Village was a side project by Brookie and their co-mayor Taha. It was planned to be another town west of Oaktown that Brookie would be the mayor of, but due to the lack of materials to finish its roof, expand it, and other players building outside its borders, he joined it up with Oaktown. It makes sense why they would do this since they are making competition with their own neighboring town, but it didn't matter in the end because it just made Oaktown even bigger. The spike in Oaktown's growth stopped at the end of June and early July. Brookie tells me he points to the decline of the town, to not advertising like they once did, and I agree with them. I can't confidently pin down the death date of Oaktown, but I know for sure it wouldn't make it to the start of 2018. The 30th of September 2017 would be the last time Brookie would play on Simplex for a significant amount of time. They promised to return after winter, but they logged in on the 23rd of December and was never seen again. 5 years later, they would spontaneously join Simplex long after it reset, and I would do a quick interview with them getting some valuable insights into its history, which I'm currently sharing with you all. Brookie informed me that his friend and co-mayor Taha would also stop playing around the time that he did, and hand off his account to his younger brother, who would later get it permanently banned for stealing from the shopping district. Many of the players that were invited and built in Oaktown didn't stay around, and those that did prolonged its life, to an extent. I didn't have good first impressions with Oaktown, but I don't think Brookie cared how I thought, how disorganized it was, and that I knew it was doomed to fail in the long term since players claimed their own land, making control over land impossible, something I see as essential for making a town last. Endurance wasn't their goal in the end. It was the outreach, the players, and the builds that they brought along with them to make Oaktown as large as it is. Well, that is all. I thank you all for watching, and if you'd like to explore Oaktown for yourself, I have a link to a world download in the video description. I'm hosting the download on Mediafire, and I will keep up the download as long as Mediafire stays in the state that it's in. I will see you all next time.